Have you had times in your life when you were at a crossroads, you felt pulled between doing what the world expects of you and that quiet voice inside you that's calling for just something different? Well, that quiet voice, it's your intuition. And sometimes listening to it can feel like a really radical act. And yet it really might be the very thing that leads you to miracles. Maybe you've heard of Alysa Liu. She is a figure skater who is from Clovis, California, and she became the youngest U.S. women's national champion when she was just 13 years old. By the time she was 16, she had already been at the Olympics. She'd come in 6th place there, and she went on to the World Championships. And she won 3rd place there, and she was brilliant, and she was rising fast, and she was young. And everyone thought for sure she was going to be a skating superstar. And then she made a decision that shocked everybody. Out of the blue, she announced on Instagram that she was retiring. She was only 16 years old and she was retiring. And she wanted to retire not because she was injured or because she felt like she couldn't keep going, but it was something inside of her that just said, not right now. Her intuition told her that she needed to step away and to experience the world outside of the skating rink. Now, to everybody watching that and listening to that, they thought it was nuts, but she listened to her intuition and she stepped away. And she thought she was closing that chapter in her life on skating. Well, 2 years later, she went skiing for the first time in her life. And at the bottom of the ski slope, she started feeling that great adrenaline high. And it was then that she heard this voice that said, well, maybe it's time to get back on the ice. She had literally not set foot in a skating rink since that night years earlier when she'd wrapped up her final show. So she did something very brave. She listened to that voice. And she just tried skating again for fun, not intending to make a comeback or trying to prove anything to anybody. She just wanted to go have fun. And she had so much fun on the ice that she decided to skate again. So she called up her old coaches and she started practicing. And you might know the end of this story. If you don't, it's remarkable. Just 1 year later, she won the gold medal at the World Figure Skating Championships. She's now 19. That happened just a little while ago. Who knows where she's going to go next? Whether she keeps on skating or not, I know she's going to continue listening to her intuition. That is my sense of her. And you don't have to be 16 to start listening to your intuition. It is never too late for any of us. So let's take a look at what she did a little bit further. Let's unpack it. I'm Marci Shimoff, and I'm the author of the New York Times bestsellers, Happy for No Reason and Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. I'm also a teacher in The Secret. And I want to share with you 3 shifts around your intuition that can make just a huge difference for you. They certainly have for me. And the first shift is about listening to your intuition. The shift is that your intuition feels like expansion, even if it's guiding you to make a really difficult decision. It's that intuition that I feel is connected to the deeper part of us. It's connected to our soul rather than our ego. You know, the soul is expanded. The ego is fear-based. And I believe that we are all on the planet to learn to live from the soul and to live from love rather than to live from our egos and from fear. And intuition is connected to the soul. The answers from the intuition, they feel expansive. They feel like we are open, even if we're making a difficult decision. There's really 2 energies in the universe, only 2 energies. There's the energy of expansion and the energy of contraction. And when we're expanded, we feel great. And when we're contracted, we don't. You can even feel this for yourself. Just go like this. It feels good. Go like this. It feels closed down and shut down. And when you are making a decision and you're wondering if the answer is coming from your intuition, you have to get quiet and listen. Listen to whether it makes you feel expanded or whether it makes you feel contracted. So that's the first shift. Now, the second shift around intuition is about trusting it. So shift number 2 is that your intuition can defy people's expectations. It can go against what everybody else thinks you should be doing. So it's very often actually that our intuition guides us to do something that might not make sense to other people or the outside world, things like leaving a relationship or saying no to a big career opportunity that looks amazing. I mean, people would, I've had times when people thought, you're crazy to be leaving that. But I just knew my intuition was guiding me to do that. So your intuition could take you in a totally different direction from what our culture says we need to do for success or happiness. And it really takes practice and trust to listen to that inner voice and really believe it. You have to, I think, build the muscle in small ways. Like you get an invitation to dinner and you just check in with your intuition to see whether it feels like a yes or a no to yourself. So check in and honor the answer that you receive. I will share with you one of the times in my life where people thought I was crazy. And that was I had written 6 of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. They were all very, very successful. I think 4 of them were New York Times bestsellers. And there was still more opportunity and more books for me to write. But inside, I knew it was time for me to move on. It didn't make logical sense. There was still money to be made and success to be had, but my intuition said it is time to move on. And I listened to my intuition, and I'm so glad I did, because from that came the next project that I worked on, which was Happy for No Reason, that was also a huge bestseller, sold over 1 million copies. And I do not believe that that would have happened had I continued writing the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. But not only was it a success on the outside, what writing that book did for me was so much beyond the material success of it. It actually really cemented in my own happiness. So that's the second shift. Now, the third shift is, I think, probably the toughest, and that is to follow your intuition. The shift number 3 is that your intuition brings miracles when you follow it. So back to Alysa Liu, she came back to figure skating in her own timing, in her own way, on her own terms. She was reinvigorated from taking that time off to experience the world in a different way other than from just a skating rink. And she really connected to her own inner compass. And she went back to skating from a place of joy. Now, Alysa, when she was 16 and decided to retire, she had no way of knowing that that choice would lead her on a path to a gold medal when she was 19 years old. She didn't know, but her intuition had a wisdom that was deeper than any outside expert or any timeline or any plan. And when we really follow it, it puts us on the path of miracles. So when you practice listening to your intuition and following it in very low stake kind of situations, things that aren't going to make a huge difference in your life, just try it in that way so that you build confidence, and just pay attention to what happens to you next when you make those low stake kind of decisions to follow your intuition. Notice what happens. Do small miracles happen for you, or even do big miracles happen for you? So what I found is that intuition is one of the most powerful superpowers we have, but only if we listen to it, if we trust it, and if we follow it. So I really believe that your joy and your path and your timing, they all come from inside of yourself, from that inner compass. So I'm going to leave you today with one of my very favorite quotes from Rumi. And Rumi said, "There's a voice that doesn't use words. Listen." So that's the voice of intuition. And I would love to know in the comments, what's one time that you listened to your intuition, and how did that change things in your life? Sometimes the very bravest thing we can do is to truly listen.